he feeds that faith to the Jewish people. Meaning, there's two. When you talk about faith, and let's talk about that for a few moments. Where does faith come from? Where does a Jew's faith come from? A Jew has faith that God exists, and it's a type of faith that needs no convincing. You don't have to explain it to him intellectually. You don't have to give him proof. He doesn't need any of that. Where does he get that from? So it says, there's neshama up there. You see, the neshama is is lowered from heaven, is given by God into the Jew, into the person. But not all of the soul is enclosed in the body of the person. There's a part of the soul that remains up in the spiritual realm. Now the soul that remains in the spiritual realm is called a mazel. And that mazel sees God. It sees God. It doesn't need any convincing. When you see something, you don't need to be convinced of any of it. It's there. It's 100%. And that part of the soul that sees God sends, I guess, messages, if you will, to the soul that's enclosed in the body, and shares that vision with the soul that's in the body, and therefore the person believes in has faith. But there's a deeper level of faith. The deeper level of, let's talk about the first level first. That level we just described, as the mazel sees it, as the soul sees it. When you see something, yeah? And we spoke about this last week. When you see something, you definitely, no question, you're convinced that it exists. There's nothing more real than something you see. However, that is not yet going to motivate you to give up everything for this thing that you see. And in the Jewish experience, we were called upon often to give up everything for our faith, even our very life itself. So although you're right, we see it, and God is something you see, so you're definitely convinced that He exists, so you have faith in it. The question is, do you have faith in it to the degree that you're ready to give up everything for it? Why should you? Just because you see it? I also see myself. I also see my money. I also see my life. And they're also 100% real. So why should I give up my money and my life, which I see and know to exist, to something else that I see and know to exist? Why is that more powerful than myself? In other words, just because you see something, it doesn't mean you're going to give up your life for it. So the faith that emerges, that stems from your mazel, is strong, no question about it, but it's not strong enough. It will motivate you to be devoted to God, but it won't motivate you to be devoted to God more than you're devoted to yourself. Let's say it's at equal footing with yourself. You see yourself, you see God, so what's your strongest? Myself. No? You follow me? But the Rebbe says here in the Maimer that there's, based on the Kabbalah, that there's even a deeper level of faith. A faith that comes not from the mazel, but a faith that comes from the essence of the soul. What's the essence of the soul? That's a faith that stems from the knowledge and the understanding that my essence is God. That is who I am. There's not two separate entities. That's me. A Yid knows that God and him is one essence. And therefore, under no circumstances could you ever deny it. When that is revealed, when you are able to reveal your essence of your soul, then you're going to be ready to give up everything for this faith. Because you're not giving it up for something else. You're giving it up essentially for yourself, which is your neshama is Hashem. So only when your essence is revealed could you reach such a level of faith. Now that was the job of Moshe, of Moses, to reveal within the Jewish people that level of their soul. And that's the meaning of he fed the Jewish people, he shepherded the faith itself. he revealed within the Jew their ultimate faith. He revealed their essence of their soul. How did Moses do it in the desert, the first Moses? And how did it manifest itself? He taught them tremendous knowledge of Torah. He opened up their mind to incredible knowledge of God. And that level of knowledge that he was able to impart to them was a result of him opening up and revealing their soul, their essence of their soul. So they had the most profound understanding and relationship with God in that sense. How did the subsequent Moses do it later on in history? Let's take, for example, Mordechai, the great leader of the Jewish people during the time of the story of Purim, in the time of Haman and Esther and that whole story. He also revealed the essence of the Jewish people. And how did it manifest itself in his time? He was the leader of the whole Jewish world. He was the Moses. How did it manifest itself? At the time of Purim, the Jewish people were so dedicated that they were actually ready to give up their whole life, to die for Hashem. They were. It says he gathered groups of thousands and thousands of children, and they clung to him. They didn't want to go home with their mothers and fathers. They said, we're going into fire and water together with Mordechai for Hashem. And at that time, had the Jews denied their faith and given it up, Muhammad would have spared them. So there was a choice that was given to them. And yet no one even considered the option of giving up, of leaving the faith. Why was that? Because Haman revealed, Mordechai revealed within the Jewish people the essence of their neshama, and when you reveal the essence, there's no way you can deny it. It brings out a readiness to give up everything for Hashem. And the Rebbe said, and this is where we finished last week, that in that sense, the Mordechai's, the Moses, the Moshe Rabbeinus of the generations of self-sacrifice revealed their essence even deeper than the Moses of the desert. Because when you motivate readiness for self-sacrifice, that's the highest level of the essence, of the connection with the essence. All right, so now we start with chapter 7. It is well known that the demonstration of actual self-sacrifice for Torah and mitzvahs by all of Israel occurred during the story of Purim during the period of Haman's persecution. The self-sacrifice of Hanukkah during the period of the Syrian Greek persecution was demonstrated primarily by Matisyahu and his sons, the Hashmonaim, the Hasmoneans, a select group, whereas the self-sacrifice that occurred during the period of Haman's persecution was exhibited by all of Israel. So the Rebbe makes a distinction over here between the story what happened by Hanukkah and the story that happened by Purim. By Hanukkah it was not everyone, by Purim it was the whole Jewish people who were ready for self-sacrifice. Accordingly, we can explain the Midrash statement cited in the discourse, in the previous Rebbe's discourse, which he's basing this whole discourse on. So accordingly, we can explain the Midrash statement that Mordechai in his generation was equal to Moses in his generation. The Midrash says that Mordechai was like Moses. Although the offshoot of Moses exists in every generation, nevertheless, the Midrash states that Mordechai specifically was equal in his generation to Moses in his generation. Now, there is a Moses in every generation. But the Midrash makes a statement here, and he emphasizes that Mordechai specifically, who lived 900 years after Moses, Mordechai in his generation was like Moshe in his generation. It doesn't say that about Samuel or about the other great Moses-like figures. It says it specifically about Mordechai. Why? There was a Moses in every generation. And the reason is because it can be said, let's read further, it can be said that one of the virtues of Mordechai the Jew was that even in a revealed way, he was the shepherd of faith of all of Israel in his generation. That means like this. This is an important point. We say that since Moshe, in every generation there was a man, a leader, a figure like Moshe. A great leader at the caliber of Moshe, right? Who possessed the soul of Moses. The soul of Moses were reincarnated into him, and he was the Moses of the generation. Correct? But not in every generation was it openly revealed that this man is the leader of the whole Jewish world. First of all, sometimes he never even had a connection with most of the Jews of his time. He lived maybe in one place, and half the Jewish people lived across the globe, and he never had a connection to them. So it wasn't an open, revealed Moses. At least it wasn't a Moses that had an open and revealed connection to the whole Jewish world. Mordechai was unique. Mordechai was the person that the whole Jewish world benefited from his leadership. Everyone. Let's read it here again. It can be said that one of the virtues of Mordechai the Jew was that even in a revealed way, look at 87. In other words, the Moses of every generation is the leader of the entire generation. This is true with every Moses in every generation. At times, his leadership, at times, his relationship with an effect on the entire nation is not really readily apparent, though it no doubt exists. They're always in touch with the whole generation, but it's not apparent. What does it mean that that his leadership is on the whole generation if it's not apparent? So it says, because it's a known thing, it says that Moses is the source of all the Jewish people's spiritual and physical sustenance. Everything comes through Moshe. You may see it, you may know it, you may not. But that's how it is. So he's affecting the whole Jewish world, whether it's apparently readily apparent or not. But the difference was as follows. Look at this note again. In other words, the Moses of every generation is the leader of the entire generation. At times, his relationship with and effect on the entire generation is not readily apparent, though it no doubt exists. In the case of Mordechai, however, his connection to the entire people was obvious. Hence, the specific association between Moses and Mordechai, more than any other leader, since both Moshe and Mordechai's influence upon their entire generation was obvious. Right? In the time of Moses, the whole Jewish people were right there with him. In the time of Mordechai, it was obvious that he was the man that was the source of their, spiritual connection. Let's go back on top. Again, we'll read from the beginning of that paragraph. It can be said that one of the virtues of Mordechai the Jew was that even in a revealed way, he was the shepherd of faith of all of Israel in his generation. In this way, Mordechai is similar to Moshe, the shepherd of faith who imparted das, knowledge, to all of Israel in his generation. As evident also from the fact that Moses' generation, all of his generation, is called a generation of das. Everyone at that time of Moses was called men of knowledge. Why? Because they received their all from Moshe. So he was, no question, the open and revealed leader of the Jewish people at his time. Mordechai was also. The difference is, and this is key, the difference is that with Moshe, the revelation of this concept being the shepherd of faith, that he revealed the essence of their neshama, of all of Israel, occurred through his imparting das, knowledge, to all the people of his generation. How did it manifest itself? Through him imparting knowledge, which only can come through revealing the essence of the soul. While with Mordechai, this concept was revealed through his revealing the capacity of Mesiras Nefesh, self-sacrifice, within all the people of his generation. That was the difference between the two. That in Moshe's generation, there was no need for Mesiras Nefesh, for self-sacrifice. No one was threatening him that way. So how did it manifest itself, the fact that he revealed their essence? Mainly through his teaching them knowledge and das and connecting them to deep knowledge of Hashem, which also comes through revealing their essence. But Mordechai went a step further. In his revealing their essence, he revealed it to such a deep level that it brought a readiness for the whole generation to give up everything for Hashem. And that's the highest level. The Rebbe ends off this paragraph, this chapter, with a fascinating statement. Look at this, what he says now. It can be said that by citing the previous, he's quoting the previous Rebbe, right? This is all he's basing this whole thing on what his father-in-law, the previous Rebbe, said. Therefore, he says, it can be said that by citing the Midrash statement that Mordechai in his generation was equal to Moses in his generation, the Rebbe, the previous Rebbe that is, rules regarding himself that he is the shepherd of faith in a revealed way of all the people of his generation. Now this is a powerful statement. To understand it, first let's read note 90. This is similar to the interpretation of the Mishnah expression in the chapter, in the Ethics of Our Fathers, Elvos, where it says as follows: know before whom you are destined to give a judgment and reckoning. I mean God, when you got up there. Judgment followed by reckoning. This is strange. It should be reckoning and then judgment. First you reckon, what did you do? Let's take a look at your roster, and then we make a judgment based on what you did, based on your reckoning. But here's the opposite. Judgment followed by reckoning. I'm sorry. Before whom you are destined to give a judgment and reckoning. Judgment followed by reckoning. Right. So I mean judgment first and then reckoning. It would seem more appropriate that had the Mishnah said reckoning and judgment, since the judgment follows the reckoning. What does reckoning mean? What do you do? You look at your summary. Yeah. The interpretation given is based on the words of the Mishnah that retribution is taken from man with his knowledge and without his knowledge. Meaning that by not knowingly pronouncing judgment on his fellow's case, he unwittingly pronounces judgment on his own case, since it is according to his judgment that he pronounced on his fellow that a reckoning is made regarding his situation. It means like this. You're driving on the highway and you see another guy cut you off. And you get very angry because you almost caused an accident. What's the first thing a lot of people say in such a situation? Well, forget about such a scenario. Let's take a bank robber. Or someone who's not honest. A person who's not honest. He lies. He cheats. What do you say? Oh, may God pay him back. Let him, who knows what. Right? Let him suffer the consequences, right? You did the crime, let him do the time. All right, God's listening to what you said. You just passed judgment. In other words, according to you, someone that lies should go to jail. All right? God writes that judgment down. You just passed judgment on someone else. That for this crime, this is what you deserve. No problem. Come up to heaven. He takes a look at you. How many times did you lie? You lied 5, 10 times in your lifetime. God asks you, "No, what do you think should be done to you for that?" You say, "Well, maybe I have a little mercy." God takes up the old tape recorder, takes out the file. Wait a minute, I heard you say 20 years ago that the guy should go to jail for lying. So You yourself gave the judgment for such a crime. So you're going to jail. You're going to hell. In other, the reckoning comes after the judgment. You pass judgment on people during your lifetime. Now, once you did that, you come up to heaven and they start reckoning. No, let's do this. Let's see where you holding in this whole situation. So the judgment comes before the reckoning. That's how the Baal Shem Tov explains it. Huh? You like that, huh?
No,
you don't?
No,
you don't?
No, I don't like the subject. No, because
that's why we say don't judge people.
That's why you have to be very careful before you utter something about someone else. Even if the other people, you really feel they're guilty and deserve punishment.
Never judged.
Because most sins we're all guilty in some form.
That kept his feet goes.
In some form we're all guilty.
Once.
Almost every sin.
I'm judged him by the way.
Oh my God. I don't like the subject.
Why don't you like it? So let's read it again and see how it applies to what we're learning. It would seem more appropriate, let's read this on the left column again, close the bottom. It would seem more appropriate had the Mishnah said reckoning and judgment, since the judgment follows the reckoning. The interpretation given is based on the words of the Mishnah that retribution is taken from man with his knowledge and without his knowledge, meaning that by knowingly pronouncing judgment on his fellow's case, he unwittingly pronounces judgment on his own case, since it is according to this judgment that he pronounced on his fellow, that a reckoning is made regarding his situation. Okay, clear. In a similar vein, he says like this, by the previous Rebbe citing the Medrash's pronouncement that Mordechai in his generation was equal to Moses in his generation. He cited that regarding Moshe, regarding Mordechai. So the previous Rebbe, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak, in fact, pronounced the same on himself. He passed judgment on Mordechai. It also applies to himself and others. It's the same idea. That he is the shepherd of faith of his generation in a revealed manner. Now, off the record, I will tell you that this line was a matter of great discussion, debate. What does the Rebbe mean with this? What is the Rebbe talking about?
He's passing judgment, so he is also.
That's true, number one. Because just like he said, the previous Rebbe said it about Mordechai, so it applies to him. So obviously, if he said it about the previous Rebbe, it applies to him. But was the previous Rebbe, in other words, it could even be that he's altogether not talking about the previous Rebbe in his time. Let's leave it alone. Let's take the Rebbe's words as they said, as they are. What he's saying over here is...
The previous Rebbe said that he was the Moshe of his generation?
The previous Rebbe never said that. The previous Rebbe just quoted the Medrash about Mordechai.
Okay.
That Mordechai in his generation, and he said that Mordechai was the open and revealed Moses of the whole generation. There are other Moses that were the leader of the whole generation, but it wasn't revealed and apparent. Right?
Right.
By the Mordechai, the previous Rebbe said it was just like Moshe. Just like Moshe was no question, was the most it was revealed that he is it. By Mordechai it was also. So the Rebbe is saying that in our generation, this is also true. Now we're talking about let's take, first of all, read 91. There's a little note there. Much has been written about Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak's defiant leadership in the face of the terrible oppression of the communist regime in Soviet Russia. Introduction to Appendix 1. In other words, what he's saying is that in our generation, the previous Rebbe, I believe the Rebbe himself, even more than the previous Rebbe, in our time, take a look at our time. In Moshe Rabbeinu's time, in the desert, was it obvious to everyone that who's their leader? Moshe. The whole generation knew that their leader was Moshe. They were all there. They were all there, traveling together in the desert. Moshe was the undisputed leader, no question about it. In Mordechai's time, he had an effect on the entire Jewish people in an open and revealed way. Who saved them from this terrible plot? Mordechai. He saved the whole generation. Not only that, but the lead up to it also, he gathered and he brought them back to Tshuva. I mean, no question, he had a tremendous effect on the entire generation. In an open and revealed way. Did the Baal Shem Tov have an open and revealed relationship and connection to every single Jew? The Baal Shem Tov lived in Mezhebush, city in Ukraine. He was no question the Moses of his time. But did he have, was it an open and revealed connection to the whole Jewish world, even the Jews that lived in England, or in Yemen, or wherever they lived? Most of these people probably never even heard of the Baal Shem Tov. They never even heard of him. There's no question that the Baal Shem Tov's reach was very, very wide and far. But it wasn't to all the Jewish people in the world. And in fact, there was never a Moses of a generation that had an effect on the whole Jewish world in an open and revealed way. It could possibly be said that after the time of, since the Jews entered Israel, or some period after that, there was only one, like the Mordechai, that had an absolute open and revealed connection to the whole Jewish generation. Take a look at our time. You can blame it on modern technology, you can blame it on whatever you want, you can attribute it to whatever you want. But the Rebbe reached literally to every single Jew around the world. His reach is not, it's just an amazing concept. And I think that's what the Rebbe is talking about. He's saying it about the previous Rebbe, because he sees himself as just an agent of the Frierdiker Rebbe, so it's all the Frierdiker, previous Rebbe. But it's himself. When was there a leader that reached out to the whole Jewish world quite literally? Not just by sending letters, sending his own shluchim to the whole world, to wherever there's a Jew. And where there's no permanent shlich, he sends young students to... He made sure that the whole Jewish world is touched. This is a phenomenon that never existed since Mordechai. And maybe even more than Mordechai's time.
So how did Mordechai reach every Jew in the whole world?
I think what it really means is that he's saved. Because of him, the whole Jewish people were saved, and everyone knows it. And they all knew it then too. But I can't say that his reach was in a personal way with every Jew. It could be it was. I mean, did Mordechai have an open and revealed relationship with the Jews of Cush that lived 1,000 miles away from Shushan? I don't know if Jews lived in Cush then. How far was the Jewish civilization? Where did they live at that time?
But he had to do a lot with the king, who was going to murder them.
All right, so you're saying that he saved them. That could be. That's what it means.
The threat was to them immediately.
But he also says in the Maimon that he revealed their readiness for self-sacrifice.
True.
So he did have an open effect on them. But Mordechai did. But I don't think it was to the degree that we have today, or in the last 50 years, of a Jewish leader that literally had an effect on the whole Jewish world. The Rebbe's reach is quite literal to the entire Jewish world and beyond. chapter 8. We can now explain the connection and order of the concepts in the previous Rebbe's discourse in explanation of the verse, and you shall command. The previous Rebbe's discourse was delivered on Purim, right? Of 1927. But it was also delivered in the week that we read the portion Veata Tetzaveh. So in that, his discourse, he explains the verse Veata Tetzaveh. And he goes in order. And there's a sequence to all his to the concepts that he explains. This, and he's going to explain it now. It all makes sense now. Firstly, the Rebbe interprets the words, and you shall command Veata Tetzaveh, to mean that Moshe connects and binds the children of Israel with the infinite light by feeding and sustaining their faith. He connects every Jew to God, to the essence of Hashem, by revealing their essence of their neshama, which is the idea of feeding their faith. He opens up their connection to Hashem. He then explains that the shepherds of Israel in every generation, the offshoots of Moses, also strengthen Israel's faith, such as Mordechai, the Moses of his generation, who strengthened Israel's faith to stand strong in the study of Torah and the fulfillment of mitzvahs. He then interprets the words of that verse in Veata Tetzaveh, of that portion, crushed for the luminary. From the verse Veata, and you shall command, which apparently refers to Moses himself, to mean that Moses' revelation of Israel's luminary, the fact that he reveals the essence of their soul, the luminary, the luminary of their soul, which is not the light of their soul, but the source of their light, as we explained earlier in the discourse, which is a reference to the essence of their neshama, right? The soul's essence. That occurs primarily through his offshoots during the time of exile when Jews are crushed, to awaken within Israel their power of self-sacrifice, which causes the primary revelation of the soul's essence, the luminary. So first he explains the general job of Moshe, which is to connect the Jewish people to the infinite God. Then he explains that later on, the later subsequent Moses do the same thing, like Mordechai in his generation. And then he explains that the end of that verse, where it says that they should bring the oil to Moshe, to that he should make crush the olives for the luminary, for the menorah, right, to bring light to the temple. He explains it on the higher level, that when you crushed, and the question at the beginning of the Maimah was, why does it say crushed for the luminary and not crushed for illumination? Because at the end of the day, you're bringing that oil that you got from the crushed olives to produce oil so it can give light, so you can light up candles. So what is luminary? It should say illumination. So the Rebbe is explaining it on a whole different level. That crushed for the luminary, that those Moses that lived during times of terrible persecution when Jews were crushed, like the previous Rebbe in his time, which was the ultimate of crushing, they brought the Jewish people and connected them to their own luminary, to the essence of their soul, which is the source of their faith. You follow? Mm-hmm. According to the above, the concept of crushed for the luminary pertains to when you shall command the children of Israel, to the fact that Moshe and his offshoots in every generation connect and bind Israel with the infinite light. What? Let's read this again. According to the above, the concept that we just explained of the words in that verse, crushed for the luminary, pertains to the beginning of that verse, which reads, and you, Moshe, shall command the Jewish people, the children of Israel. So the connection is, he says, to the fact that Moshe and his offshoots in every generation connect and bind Israel with the infinite light, right? That's what we said. Through how? By revealing their luminary. In the verse, however, there's a problem over here. Why? In the verse, however, crushed for the luminary follows. What's the verse? Let's go to the beginning of the discourse again so you know what I'm talking about. It's on page 26. It says like this, and it's a verse in Exodus. This is Exodus, where is it?
27.
Huh?
27:20.
27:20. Thank you. I don't see that. Yeah, right there, yeah. And you, Moses, shall command the children of Israel. So we explained that means he should connect. Tetzaveh, command, also means connect. So he connects the Jewish people to God. And they shall bring you pure olive oil, crushed for the luminary. So between the words, and you shall command the children of Israel, and the words crushed for the luminary, there are another few words. What are the other few words? And they, the Jewish people, shall bring to you pure olive oil. So now let's go back over here. We'll read again. According to the above, the concept of crushed for the luminary pertains to the beginning of the verse, and you shall command the children of Israel. To the fact that Moshe and his offshoots in every generation connect and bind Israel to the infinite light through bringing out their luminary, especially in times when they're crushed, in times of exile, which is the story of the story of Mordechai, and it's the story of the previous Rebbe. In that verse, however, crushed for the luminary follows the words, and they shall bring to you olive oil. Israel bringing oil to Moses, and they shall bring to you pure olive oil. And the concept that, and they shall bring to you, Israel bringing to oil to Moshe, is that Israel increases light within Moshe. As cited from the discourse above, chapter 2, this requires explanation. In other words, till now we explained that what's Moshe's job? To bring out the deepest faith within the Jewish people. So Moshe's brings out within us our own luminaries, especially the Moses that are of the generations of a time of crushing, of exile. Right? But over here, suddenly there's a new concept in the verse. That the Jewish people bring the olive oil to Moshe. It seems that we're bringing some new light to Moshe. Not that he's bringing light to us, increasing our own light. We're increasing his light. How does that work? This requires explanation. Take a look at 96. The verse in sequence reads, and you, Moses, shall command the children of Israel, and they shall bring to you pure olive oil, crushed for the luminary. In the plain sense of the verse, crushed for luminary defines and qualifies the phrase immediately preceding it, which is, and they shall bring to you pure olive oil. In other words, the pure olive oil that is to be brought to Moshe must be crushed for the luminary, to be crushed from the olives. It stands to reason, then, that even in its more mystical level of explanation, the verse retains its sequential integrity. That crushed for the luminary defines and qualifies, and they shall bring to you pure olive oil. Yet, according to what has been explained thus far in the discourse, crushed for the luminary defines the function of the shepherds of faith in eliciting Israel's self-sacrifice. He brings out within them their essence, which motivates self-sacrifice. An explanation of the phrase, and you shall command the children of Israel, right? What's you shall command? You shall connect the Jewish people to God, to the infinite light. How does he do it? Through uncovering and revealing their luminary. So crushed for the luminary, and when does he do that? Mainly in times of crushing. So crushed for the luminary is an explanation of the beginning of the verse. And you shall connect the Jewish people to the infinite light. How does he do that? By revealing their luminary. But the middle words, somehow, where do they fit in? What connection is there between crushed for the luminary and they shall bring to you pure olive oil, which speaks of Israel's enhancing of Moshe? That which Israel brings adds to Moses. To get familiarized with that verse with which this discourse opens. But that's it. It's right here in the note. I guess we'll stop over here.